There's an old spruce hollow in the vast northern forest. It's an enchanting cathedral of towering trees, small openings, and fascinating creatures. A subtle symphony plays through the lives of the trees and the animals interconnected with them. From a simple harmony of rustling branches, it swells to the great spring chorus and drops gradually to calm winter silences. See this treasure through the eyes of extraordinary vocalists, a pair of barred owls. At the end of a long winter, the pair flies to the hollow over the boreal forest mix of aspen and birch, tall spruce and boggy openings, straight to an ancient snag hidden in this special place. They come from another part of their territory to nest here each year. For this treasure is the haunt of the barred owl. The northwestern boreal forest is a mosaic of tree stands, wetlands, and lakes. The Spruce Hollow, a pocket of boreal old-growth trees protected by a nearby lake, is one of the oldest components of the forest elements. But these days, human encroachment poses a new threat. Logging near the pocket affects the wildlife. Some species, like barred owls, depend on boreal old-growth habitats to exist. Logging creates access for humans and for animals that require open areas, both of which can negatively impact or eliminate old-growth dependent species. Larger trees are more valuable to industry, so mature stands are being cut at a phenomenal rate. But for old-growth animal species, there's no substitute for these trees and the surrounding forest. Nothing else can provide the proper habitat and protection they need. White spruce, in the haunt of the barred owl, grew up in the shade of the aspen poplars that first colonized the hollow. Some aspens will remain in the stand, since they grow so quickly in sunlit openings created by fallen trees. Generations of pileated woodpeckers have nested in the old-growth pocket. The barred owl's hollow snag is actually the remains of an ancient pileated nest hole. The current reigning pileated male starts a new cavity for his mate each spring. While the pileated excavates, barred owl courtship is in full swing. No other owl has such a wide inventory of creative sounds. The male goes from post to post around its territory. Wings drooping and feathers puffed out, the owl tries to look and sound as imposing as it can. Work on the pileated nest hole continues. Both male and female take turns chopping the cavity out once the female has accepted it. As the male is relieved by its mate, it gives a soft ritual tapping before leaving. The female inspects and continues the male's work. It takes only a few days for the pileated nest to be chopped out. Several woodpecker species can nest and feed close by without competing, since each species forages in its own way. Like most woodpeckers, the three-toed drums rapidly. Only yellow-bellied sapsuckers hit out Morse code instead of drumming. But no woodpecker species can match the loud drum rolls and hair-raising calls of the male pileated. Such loud, aggressive behavior can irritate others. Not all territorial encounters are between the same species. Often, the purpose of a confrontation is dominance, not exclusion. There's no question who's king of the hollow. There's another drummer present. This one struts in quiet, subtle colors along one of the mossy logs on the old-growth floor. Like the pileated woodpecker, the ruffed grousecock drums throughout the spring to indicate his territory. Barred owl eggs are often laid when snow is still present. Incubation starts with the first egg to keep it from freezing, since the eggs cannot be laid all at once. They'll hatch in the order that they were laid. A sudden new and ominous sound. The great horned owl, fiend of the night, has plucked a luckless coot off the newly opened lake and stopped by the snag. Lucky for the barred owls, though, it could have been one of them. Great horned owls have begun to move into the area as the forest has been opened by logging. So far, the barred owls have been able to avoid being killed by these larger predators. Whether they can continue to do so depends upon how much forest is logged. As spring advances, new movements begin as a few early songbirds arrive. And there are some other new arrivals to the haunt of the barred owl. 2 downy owlets have just reached their first week of age. The female has spent weeks in confinement. Though her eyesight is curtailed by the snag, she doesn't miss the wondrous spring activities. Her amazing hearing picks up every tiny rustle, allowing her to recognize her mate and neighbors and pinpoint their movements through the noises and calls they make. The long hours in the snag are broken up more frequently now that the owlets have hatched. Although barred owls are chiefly nocturnal, they're now forced to hunt both night and day to feed the young. The owlets already have a good coat of down, but they'll still need brooding until their 4th week. Their bills appear enormous, without adult facial feathers to hide the base. Outside, both parents are hunting for a wide range of prey. Birds, flying squirrels, and even fish. Today, a deer mouse. One of the staples of the barred owl's diet exposes itself. Mice and voles can make up as much as 90% of the barred owl's food items. Green up glory and the boreal forest arrives. So do the mosquitoes, which prey upon birds and mammals alike. Old-growth stands are important for shelter to many animals living in the area or passing through. A black bear sow has paused to nurse. A solitary bull moose is often present. It has bedded in the hollow through most of the year. Red foxes have chosen to den in the old-growth habitat. The adults hunt throughout the habitat edges of the forest mosaic. But it is here, deep within the shelter of the big trees, that they raise their pups. As for the barred owlets, they're now about a month old. Both have matured enough that their mother no longer needs to go down into the snag to feed them. Both parents simply drop the food down the hatch and watch it disappear. So the young ones are almost on their own as they learn to preen themselves, endure the mosquitoes, and investigate their home in their own owlish way. Time slides by quickly as the old-growth symphony swells with the great June crescendo. Slivers of light shining through the canopy and moving across the forest floor have brought forth the first jewels of a bounty of small treasures. Club mosses on the forest floor seem to mimic the canopy above. The full complement of the symphony's woodwind section has arrived. All live in special places and sing the unique melody of their species. As the symphony is made of related but different parts, so the plants and animals are interdependent yet specialized for particular niches. Some are hard to see up in the old-growth spruce tops, but they come down to a secret puddle in the morning to drink and to bathe. Here, the elusive bay-breasted warbler may be seen, along with the common yellow-rumped warbler and the dark-eyed junco. Where a multitude of birds live, there must also live elusive accipiter hawks, bird hunters of the forest. Fierce, aggressive, their presence brings instant terror to their prey, with good reason, for they ambush a careless bird at the blink of an eye. In the clutch of the accipiter, the blue jay makes a valiant but hopeless struggle. With a nest of 5 ravenous chicks, the parents will soon be hunting again. Something else is up in the spruce tops. The owlets have vacated the ancient snag. Having spent their entire lives inside its stable cavity, they find a number of challenges in their new environment. Since they're not able to fly upward yet, there's an interesting problem to solve when they run out of room to fly down. How do they get back up again? Armed with razor-sharp talons and beak, the young owls soon figure out how to make the ascent. Sleeping outside the cavity is another new challenge. As spring advances towards summer, many young animals are discovering new dimensions in their lives. The position of the pileated woodpecker nest, once a secret, is now trumpeted throughout the hollow by the insatiable chicks. The owlets are up and at it again. Already they're much more at home in the treetops. In a few days, they'll fly with their parents to another part of the territory. In this way, the mice at this location should be able to replenish in time for the parents' return next spring. In the weeks since hatching, the owlets have already consumed hundreds of mice, voles, and other small creatures. The family will remain together as the parents continue to feed and train their young. Then, some months later, the owlets will disperse. The last few days of spring go by quickly, as the old-growth stand puts out more and more of its warm weather finery. But even before the first day of summer arrives, the haunt of the barred owl sees the last of these black eyes. Hopefully, logging and development will allow this treasure that has endured for so many years to continue its symphony so the barred owls may return next spring to their ancient snag.